Good morning. It is September the 18th, 2020. It's the day after my father's birthday. Happy another after birthday, Dad. And of course, despite time and whatever got in your way this week, you're here. So it's Bubble Friday. And good morning, everybody. Blowing bubbles on this Friday. Welcome to your Friday, your Bubble Friday, your hopefully in your work week. If not, you can claim it whatever you want to. This is a day that we collectively start to celebrate the end of a something, end of a week, end of a ordeal, and the beginning of a time of rest, a weekend. If it's not quite that, just celebrate the end of yesterday, the beginning of today, the new life, the new struggles that you're going through, and the new trouble. Because trouble does seem like kind of a crappy thing, but you know, if you're not having trouble, you're probably not doing very much in life, and it's life that's probably not worth that much in living. My name, Jay Cleveland Payne. Bubble Friday is something created as an event. Probably about 10 years ago. I keep going back and forth at the time. When I worked at a previous employer, we were having some issues just internally, just being depressed and sad about some things happening. And so we just bought some bubbles, put them on the back porch in the smoking area, the kind of break area. And throughout the day, people just go out there and blow bubbles to blow off steam and just kind of blow away the stress and be carefree for a little bit. Something a little fun, something that was kind of cool. And hopefully you're enjoying this as well. I do a lot of things, and blowing bubbles is just one of them. And while that may not seem like it takes up a lot of real energy and actual resources, it sort of does. So these are the times where I also remind you about the Bubble Friday stuff. I do a little bit of commentary, do a little bit of kind of chit chat stuff, and do a little bit of promotion of what I have going on. And so you can help out basically the efforts of things that have going on by really simply, number one, following these things. And this is one way you can support the effort. You see them scrolling at the bottom right now to website buymeacoffee.com/jclevelandpayne and keep me caffeinated. That helps out much more than you would know. Now, as I said, Bubble Friday was something that was created many years ago as a way to kind of blow off steam. And it was something that we put on Facebook, just pictures of us blowing bubbles in the backyard at work. Really silly. And then some friends got into it and some other folks got into it. And I thought I was going to make it into a thing, and it didn't quite happen. And then someone asked me somewhere middle pandemic, dude, can we do Bubble Fridays again? So because I don't work in a environment where this really works out to go on a black porch and just kind of blow bubbles, I've turned it into this, and also turned it into a way to show for some stuff I have going on. I like to think that I may not be a big influencer, but I think I am, fairly intelligent and have some smart things to say, and sometimes they may resonate. So I use this time here to do that. So number one, because it's Friday, or whatever day it is, because it's a day, use this time to take a moment to reflect on what has passed and just take a breath, blow out the stress of the past. And you can do it by either buying a cheap bottle of bubbles from the Walmart, or just literally just inhale and exhale. Take a breath and just mark the day for what it is, the day that is your Friday or your Tuesday or your bubble tax season day, whatever it is. Take some time to relax, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 60 seconds, just to shut off the world, take a breath, and relax. And if you can take more than that time, you're doing great. Take some time to actually sit down and relax and just sort of enjoy something. If you want to enjoy the bubbles of other sorts, I'm all down with that. Trust me, whatever bubbles that you can find, go out there and blow, or maybe consume a few and enjoy on that. So first thing I want to talk about is effort that I'm going to do, which is maybe, it may end up being wasted effort. We'll see. But one thing that I do a lot of that I don't get a chance to do here is well, one thing I do a lot of, because I don't get a chance to do the messaging I like to in this form, is podcasting, recording podcasts. I record a lot of podcasts. It may sound like a lot of work, and it is work. Most of them are what people call micro podcasts. Most of them are very short. Most of them are actually about 60 seconds long. One of them, a more popular one called Steps to Better You, is 90 seconds long. Have one. Most of them are personal development, or quick info type stuff. My personal development ones include a 10-minute life lesson, which is a 10-minute lesson. So in 10 minutes, you get the lesson, and then it does some promo stuff afterwards. And there's one called Steps to Your Better You, which is 90 seconds from top to bottom, also personal development. Along the ways, in my podcast graveyard, you can see them all as we're scrolling on the bottom of the screen. There's a website, jclevelandpayne.net/podcast. You can see all the podcasts I have that basically have ever lived that have been there. There have been some various attempts to do something that's been a bit more deeper diving, a bit more thought-provoking, a bit more reflective, if you will. And so you can see the details of that. One was called the Project Positive Message, which was supposed to be every day something positive. It works to a certain extent, if you will. It's still there, just has not been updated lately, because that's one I can't seem to figure out to get back going. But what I'm doing, my plan is going on, even though I'm trying to find more time to relaunch some of the more better podcasts, the more lucrative podcasts, the podcasts that had more meat to them, actually were more shows, so that have a greater appeal to other folks, is I'm going to start another one, because not having enough time means you should start more podcasts. The podcast will be called, at least for the moment, Hang in There. A podcast for people working hard to succeed, but not seeing success. And this is going to be an interesting project, I believe, because it literally is a way for me to do a blowout of steam, a just kind of release of frustration in podcast form, and it's just basically seeing how many people will follow me on this journey. It's going to be, honestly, a good bit of complaining and pain and agony of just not getting things done, and sort of finding a way to be okay with it. Because one thing that people don't tell you in the world of this hypey personal development online coaching stuff that I've been a part of for a while, well, actually something I actually say it very often, but something that's not really sold by the people who are at the top is the fact that your life may suck, and the things that you're doing in the process may not make it better. In fact, it might make it worse. What actually happens in all the world of personal development, what actually happens when you start doing a real deep dive into who you are, how things are working, is you get to see the reality. It's just like if you don't check your bank statements for a while, and you just sort of assume you have a bunch of money someplace, and then a bill comes in unpaid, then you check and see what's going on. You realize you have all these subscriptions popping out. You're giving out random money to here and there. You're just cash apping people like crazy because you think you have something, and you don't really know what's happening. And what happens is you actually get a real view of who you are and what's going on. And then you get really, really, really sad, because you've realized things aren't so great. And all the things you've been doing on top of that are essentially coats of paint on a rusted car. It doesn't make the car look any prettier. It just gets really weird with all these coats of paint on top of all this rusted stuff. It just doesn't look great, but you think you're doing progress. So this podcast here, what it's going to happen is going to be kind of a deep dive, not so much into me, but a deep dive for people who are working really, really hard at something, and then finding they just aren't winning. They aren't succeeding. They aren't getting the results that they were expecting, that the plan was advertising, that the coach says, if all you have to do is put your head down and do this, it'll happen. Remember, all you have to do to maintain a healthy weight is to eat less bad stuff, eat more good stuff, and put more movement into your world. Those three things, and eating things are split in two, because you don't just eat less, you eat less of the crap and more of the good stuff. And then you exercise, you move more. And if that were so simple, which is still simple, if that was so simple, so easy, you should say, we'd all be walking around wearing Speedos and bikinis and flexing all the time. But we're not. It's a simple tenet that is really hard to do because there's so many things that get in the way. It takes actual effort to make it happen. And sometimes actual effort becomes a challenge, if you will. And then some people don't have the ability to do those actual efforting things because of what's going on. So you can find out about all my podcasts at jclevelandpayne.net/podcasts. And you can find out about this new one when it launches, probably in about 2 weeks. I basically have sketched out the ideas. I've got some episode idea plan down set. The hard part is done. The easy part is picking some songs, recording one, making it, seeing how it worked out, and then just sort of testing it. That takes a couple days of just having time to play around with it. We'll see what happens this weekend or next weekend in general time of goofing off with that. But the main thing is it'll be a monologue, be pretty much me boring like this, yummy, yummy, yummy. And it's going to hopefully help people who are actually wondering, how come there's all these happy people doing all these great things and having all the success, and I'm here busting my butt and nothing's happening? Because trust me, I've been in business. I've been in the business mode, personal business, for over 10 years. And I've been doing personal development type stuff since I was about 15 years old. And I've been trying to be a speaker, teacher, talker guy for about 20 years or so, at least trying to. And I'm not seeing massive success. Tony Robbins isn't calling me as one of his personal friends, and it's probably not happening tomorrow either. And so the idea is to either go sit in that corner right back there and wait to die, or figure out what's not working and make it work, or somewhere in between, figure out what's not working, come to terms with the fact that the reality, everyone can't be number one. Participation trophies are good in some sense because everyone can't be the champion, and find some middle ground. So if you have some love for me just talking in this tone of voice mostly, you can check out some podcast work at jclevelandpayne.net/podcast. I cover personal development, I cover business, I cover health and fitness, I cover technology, and I have most of the podcasts that are pretty much almost podcasts that are up to date and current are less than 5 minutes. So they really don't take very much time, and I'd appreciate it. One of those things that would also help out the effort as well, because my podcasting service plays up commercials. So listen to a commercial may help you out that way as well. So finally, way to get a little bit serious, way to basically take on the gravity of the moment, the gravity of the day right now, things going on. We're going to talk about voting again. First, we're going to blow some more bubbles because it is Bubble Friday. That's what the caption says. And we're going to talk about, we're going to frame it as a dilemma I have, although it's not that much of a dilemma, to be honest. But this is something to be said about a lot of the yak stuff going on in our social media feeds, and for some cases in real life, because some people can actually have these conversations in some setting that's of relevance. Most people are basically seeing people they are acquainted with, friends with, family members on their social media feeds, and the things that they are saying, the things they are sharing, and the things they're viewing, on top of whatever they actually get from whatever their news sources are. And some of those news sources, because I have a podcast and a project that deals with news and current events, some of that information, extremely sketchy. Trust me. So I'm going to talk about a race here, which is local to me in Arkansas. So if you know me, like actually know and see me around town, you know who these two people are, and they're probably two people that you are having to weigh in on which way you want to vote on as well. Whether you've already decided or not, that's on you. Thank you so for deciding. The point about this is go out and vote. But we have a local congressional race here where the two people running for office, the incumbent is a white male Republican. I guess the challenger is a black female Democrat who is also a state legislator. So it's not someone just coming out of nowhere, someone who did their time in the state legislature who's looking to go to the national legislature on that end. So on this, for background, the incumbent is a business person. He's as a banker. He's got a long tenured career of working here in the States, here in the region, the Southwest region, and of course in Washington, D.C., and has been back and forth to D.C. a few times for a few different tenures, a few different masters, if you will, working in finance or working in legislation, and right now is working on another term in the Congress. The challenger has been in the local or state legislature for many terms, in the House and in the Senate. A former school teacher, a very well-known activist, and very popular person around the neighborhood. This is not about what they have going on for them. This is not about the good things, actually. This is actually about the bad things. And it's weird because it's the bad things that people are saying from people who are not supportive of them. And it's just one of the weird paradoxes that I found in this season, with everything going on and things being so much harder to do, just having general conversations, just getting things done, just getting the real information out there. COVID-19 as a part of it, but just the world that we live in. Here's the weird oddity of the situation. Detractors, and not necessarily people who are sniping at it, but the people who are essentially saying, I'm voting for the other guy, have a consensus of generally liking the other person, the person they're not voting for. So all the people who are basically picking the white Republican guy think that the black Democrat lady is a pretty good lady. All the people who are voting for the black Democrat lady think that the white Republican guy is a generally nice guy. But because, two nice people make a very boring race, which, to be honest, it's not exactly the most riveting race in the world, except for a couple issues where there's the back and forth. It's what they don't like about them. It's how they describe them, the whole but on that end. For the black female Democrat who is challenging for the seat, the consensus from the other side is that she's a bit too mouthy. That's the best way to put that. And the weirdness on that is, depending on how you identify racially, culturally, or gender-wise, you could see that as a pretty sexist and pretty racist comment, because it sounds like code. If you don't understand what that means, hit me up later on. We'll discuss code later. That's a whole nother discussion. For the white Republican male, pretty much everybody thinks he's a nice guy. He's a great guy. He's a wonderful guy. He's a guy I can have a conversation with. He's a pretty cool guy. I get this guy. He's all right. However, everything that he's doing in his job in DC seems to not be doing anything good for me. He seems to be voting for basically anything that's against what I'm actually looking for. He's not standing up to the administration when they're saying crazy things. He's going along with a lot of things that don't seem to make any sense, but that's the way his boys are going, so he's just rolling his boys. That's what they're saying on that side, which, politics aside, that's kind of what happens. But that's where they're basically saying, yeah, he is a nice guy, but he's not actually doing anything that does anything worth me caring about. So that's why I'm looking the other way. Here's what it boils down to. What you will find, and because I've worked in media and worked around politicians and campaigns for so long, is that most people 80%, just throwing out a random number, 80% of people in the world are cordial. Of that 80%, 10 to 15% are super duper nice. They are like legit overly nice. And then a 20% of down from that are just, they're nice, cordial. They're nice people and they do their best to do whatever. But 80% of all people essentially in the world, especially of the politicians, despite the fact they're sniping back and forth with each other because that's what they do, that's their job, they're generally good people that you could have a beer with and have a general conversation with on sports and weather and maybe even just basic religious tenets as things go along, because they don't actually hate you and want you to die and think that you are a threat to humanity. There's about 20% of people who for some reason are going to hate you anyway, but I don't know where they come from. But if somebody doesn't hate you, you're probably not affecting life very much anyway. So there's that. But of all the politicians I've met on both sides of the aisles and some independents as well, they're generally good people. They have to be politicians. They have to have that engagement swagger to bring people in and to have the conversation and get people to fall in line with what they want to do and get you to allow them to speak for them in limited capacities. But that does not mean that they all have necessarily your best interest at heart, or everything they're going to vote for is directly going to help you. And everything they vote for that seems like is going to hurt you may not be as bad as you think. And it may be the compromise or the best of two bad situations, the lesser of two evils. So if you know what race I'm talking about right now, and maybe it's a race that sounds a lot like where you are, even though you're not here, this is not vote yay, vote nay, vote blue, vote red, vote elephant, vote donkey. This is vote. Simple. I want to eventually, sometime when I get enough clout and a little bit of cash, create an actual voter registration type public service organization that literally is about rocking the vote and getting out there and get people registered to vote. That's less partisan than anything out there, because most of the voting registration, most of the voter registration groups have some sort of bent that's connected to a particular party, and sometimes they're connected to independent parties that are looking for people to eventually oust the other parties. Probably never going to happen. Excuse me, but that's what's going on. As for me, I'm team content all the way. Whoever wins, I'll have something to talk about. Whoever takes things over, I'll have something to gauge how they're doing. And whoever is in charge, I'll have something to complain about, because there's something that they could be doing better. There's something that they're doing really bad job at that we can do. So as citizens and as a person who likes to think I do commentary on things that people listen to, there will always be something for me to point out in those senses. But someone has to be in that spot. And to make it happen, I don't choose that person, at least not directly. As a collective, we do. So vote. Get out there and vote. Crunch time is down. We're down to under 50 days to the election, but there's still time to get registered, check your registration, make sure you know where to go so there's very little issues going on. And there's actually still time in most states to apply for an absentee ballot. If you think you're not going to be home on election day, go ahead and apply. If you're worried about COVID-19 stuff, go ahead and apply. If your state does not have early voting and you think it's going to be a mess getting it done, go ahead and apply. If your state has early voting, go vote early. Get it done. Get it taken care of. Be over with it, and so you can get things going. There's less than 50 days to the election, but there are very few people. There are independent people who are not party affiliated, but there's very few people who don't have any idea who they're voting for, especially with all the chaos and turmoil that's going on right now in what's happening. Most people have decided they're going to stick with the incumbent because besides whatever is going wrong, there's enough stuff going right that they can live with it, and they'll probably turn around if given the chance for 4 more years, or are just sick and tired of this guy and done with his stuff and want him gone and know they want him gone. The bulk of Americans are like that. We're just waiting for the actual day to make it happen. We're not waiting for a train to come down and watching Lincoln and Douglas debate because we don't know who these people are. Most of us know who these people are. People who don't know who they are, I don't know what rocks they're living under, but that's may not want them voting, to be honest. So we have that going on. But if you are informed and if you are a person who actually cares about what goes wrong or also goes along in the world around you, this is your duty. The numbers for voting are horrible. People think, you have to fall in love with a person to go vote for them because that's how you do it. Whether you fall in love with a candidate or not, whether you go out and go to the polls or not, somebody's going to be in charge, and it's best to have your say of who's in charge. And maybe your guy, or like in this local election, gal, doesn't win. That doesn't mean you have lost. That means you know how the process works. That means you put in your nay for the winner. And so that person who is in charge has an idea that there's this many people who actually did not support what they're doing. And so they have the choice to take care of everybody, do a little extra to take care of folks that didn't vote for them, or just stick to the folks that voted for them and hope enough suckers will stay in line with that and keep them in office. You have a lot of power with this vote. And I say this as a person who often says, hear this out, your vote doesn't count. Your vote as a block of people with a similar thought process and a similar want and need really counts. Very rarely does an election happen over one vote. In fact, probably never. There have been a lot of elections that we've had locally here in my state in Arkansas, and a lot of elections that we've had in some big, weird sort of key places that have been, oddly enough, under 100 votes that made a difference. And there have been some newsmakers about coin flips in some counties and some places where elections go down to the wire and stuff like that. So they do happen. There are places in some elections in some places where your one vote one person not showing up made a difference. But in most massive things, it's not so much that you didn't show up. It's that you, your neighbors, and your boys didn't show up. So here's what we all need to do. We all got to vote. We all got to make a way for election day. We all got to plan around that. There's so many companies and so many organizations who are allowing time off or paid time to go do this. Some of them are actually paying their employees who are not working that day to go work the polls because there's issues with that. Figure out who you want to vote for. I don't particularly care. Vote for the one that is going to live up to your standards and do the most for you. And it can be collective, you, us, we, but basically you. Look out for number one. What's going to take the president for you? Will their plan put more money in your pocket, or will the plan put more money in the collective's pocket so there's less people pulling money out of your pocket? It gets a little complicated. Figure out who it is you want to vote for. You can even use the NCAA March Madness method and go with the one that's more attractive. That's not the problem. Somebody's got to be in charge. In most cases, we get through and people are vetted well enough by their parties and by just primaries that the craziest people don't necessarily make it to any higher up office. I'm going to pause on that, let you take effect, let you think about what I want to say, because I'm pretty sure you know what I want to say. But in most cases, the craziest candidate does not make your way to the top office. There's enough safeguards and enough checks and balances, enough people who actually have to stay around in those jobs when that person is gone to keep things going. I just want you to get out and vote. It is your duty. It is a right a lot of people fought for. And as we are revisiting a lot of things about history, there was a time in historic times, in the grand scheme of things, America, whether you want to start it at 1776 or 1619, ain't that old. It's still a baby country for the most part, or a maturing country, as opposed to some of the older ones. And not too long ago, technology notwithstanding, I would not have the rights or abilities to even say these words. So be a hero and get your vote in. And that's it for there. So congratulations for making it to a Bubble Friday, to a day. Take some time to reflect on what's past. Take a little bit of a jump into the future so you know you're planning ahead. It helps to plan ahead. And just enjoy yourself. And of course, you had time to pop in and out on this video, either live or watch it in the future on the platforms it lives on. So that in itself is a win. It's a fairly major win if you want to think about it. Some people didn't get September 18th as a day. Some people woke up, blinked their eyes, found they did not have the ability or the energy or just the sheer will to roll over and do anything past getting up. And they have the life, but don't have the energy or the will. You've got that. So you've got great things to do today, or maybe today is a day that's set aside for not so great things, but you got things to get done. The biggest thing you need to go do is check out your voter registration. If you don't think you're registered, go check it out. Get registered today. If you want to vote by mail, go do the steps to get your mail-in ballot immediately because time is running out. If you have early voting, plan to go early vote. If you have regular voting, plan to go vote. If you know a couple folks that don't think it's worth the effort, remind them it's worth the effort. Pick them up, take them with you to the polls. Make a day of it. Make a lunch of it. Make a party of it. Have some fun. In the meantime, thank you for putting up with me for 30 minutes a day. Not sure how I got 30 minutes out of this, but apparently I did. Look out for my newest podcast coming out fairly soon once I get basically it casted, calling it Hang in There. It's for people who are looking to figure out why it is they're working so hard. And all the life coaches out there say you should be doing great, but the actual results aren't actually popping in there, and why you still need to keep going forward. On that one, the alternative really, really sucks, trust me. And if you think any of this stuff is worth anything, you can just buy me a coffee. Go to buymeacoffee.com/JacobPayne and help keep me caffeinated, help keep me up, help keep me going, help keep this effort going. The biggest thing you can do is, share some of my work with other people, help me grow that family, and thank you for being a part of my family. Love you all. Talk to you again, and another Bubble Friday.